They asked me to repair a ship. Then I met its owner, an alien queen. Jake wiped the sweat from his forehead and squinted at the tangle of wires and metal panels in front of him. The shop was noisy, full of clanging tools and the hum of old engines, but Jake didn't mind. He had always loved machines. They were honest, predictable, and fixed themselves well if you knew how. Humans were not always that simple, but machines rarely lied. It was just another long day at the spaceport, and Jake was barely noticing the unusual silence that had come over the usual clamor of merchants, pilots, and transport drones. That is, until a small holocom blinked on his workbench with a message that made him freeze. It was an offer, an unusual job from an unknown client with a sum of credits that made even Jake's eyes widen. The message was simple: repair a ship. Urgent. Location coordinates included. Jake leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples. It was unlike anything he had seen before. Alien ships didn't come into human spaceports very often. If they did, they were either damaged beyond recognition or the owners were not friendly. And this message didn't say anything about the owner, just pay and location. He hesitated. Then again, he thought, he was struggling to pay the rent for his tiny apartment above the shop. Maybe it was time to take a risk. The coordinates led him to the far side of the spaceport, to a dock that rarely saw any traffic. A ship larger than most freighters hovered silently above the platform, its shape sleek and alien, with glowing patterns that pulsed faintly along its hull. The moment he saw it, Jake felt a mix of awe and fear. He had worked on human ships all his life, but this was unlike anything he had ever touched. Jake approached cautiously. The ship's surface was smooth, almost organic, as if it had grown rather than being built. When he reached out to touch the hull, he felt a strange vibration run through his fingers, like the ship was alive in some way. He stepped back. Machines didn't usually feel. The ramp lowered silently, revealing an interior bathed in soft, pulsing lights. The walls curved smoothly with panels that seemed to shift slightly when he glanced at them. Jake took a deep breath and stepped inside. He didn't know what he expected, but it wasn't this. The air smelled faintly metallic, but there was a strange warmth to it, almost inviting. He began his inspection carefully, taking note of the strange engine layout, energy conduits, and the unfamiliar control panels. Nothing like this existed in human spaceports. Every panel, every wire seemed to pulse with purpose. He couldn't even begin to imagine how the systems worked, yet something in him urged him to try. This was a challenge he couldn't resist. Hours passed as Jake worked. Sweat dripped from his brow, but he ignored it, focusing on the task. He connected wires, recalibrated systems, and cautiously interfaced with the alien computer. It responded, flickering in lights and sounds he didn't understand, but slowly he began to see patterns. He was making progress, though he knew it would take every ounce of skill he had. Just as he was checking the main energy conduit, a sudden hum filled the chamber. The lights shifted from soft blues to bright golds, and the air seemed to vibrate with a presence he could feel more than see. Jake froze. Something was approaching, and he knew instinctively that it wasn't human. A door slid open silently, revealing a figure that made him step back in shock. She was tall, regal, and utterly alien. Her skin shimmered with iridescent colors that shifted as she moved. Her eyes were large and intelligent, and yet there was a sharpness to them that commanded attention. The alien queen, Jake realized with a mix of awe and fear, was standing before him. Jake swallowed hard. He had heard stories of alien royalty, beautiful, terrifying, and nearly impossible for humans to meet without incident. Yet here she was, watching him with curiosity rather than anger. He felt suddenly small, insignificant in comparison, yet somehow he didn't feel in immediate danger. I am Jake," he stammered, unsure if she even understood him. "I'm here to repair the ship." The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him. Her voice echoed in his mind, not out loud, but perfectly clear. "You are human. I did not expect you to touch my ship without fear." "Why are you here?" Jake blinked. The voice in his mind was calm but powerful, demanding attention. I do this for work. I fix ships." "It's what I do." There was a pause and then a hum of what seemed like amusement or perhaps approval. "Work? You are brave, human. Most would not touch this vessel, let alone attempt repairs. Very well. Continue, and I will reward you handsomely." Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. Reward or not, he knew this was no ordinary job. He glanced back at the glowing panels and felt a surge of determination. If he could fix this ship, if he could prove that human skill and creativity could meet alien technology, it would be a moment he'd never forget. He returned to his work, careful now to note everything she had observed. Time passed quickly. Hours seemed like minutes as he balanced his fear with his focus. He recalibrated energy cores, adjusted conduits, and rewired systems using methods no alien manual would ever suggest. It was instinct, experience, and human ingenuity at work. The Queen observed silently, stepping closer occasionally, her movements fluid and deliberate. She did not interfere, but Jake could feel her presence pressing on him like gravity. He could not afford mistakes. One wrong move, one misjudged calculation, and he might be crushed, electrocuted, or worse. At one point, he nearly touched the wrong panel. Sparks flew and alarms blared. Jake froze, heart racing, but the Queen reached out, not to stop him, but to touch a panel beside his hand. Instantly, the sparks vanished and the system stabilized. He blinked at her. She smiled slightly, an alien smile that somehow conveyed both amusement and respect. "You are different," she said softly in his mind. "Not many humans could have done what you just did." Jake wiped sweat from his brow and nodded, unable to find words. He focused on the work, his hands moving faster, more confident. The ship was responding to him, bending to human skill in a way he never thought possible. Every system he repaired hummed with renewed life. Then suddenly a warning flashed on one of the panels. The Queen's ship was being tracked, pursued by an enemy fleet. The lights on the walls shifted to red. Jake froze. "You're being followed?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes," she replied in his mind. "They will catch us if we remain in this sector. You must finish your work quickly." The pressure hit him like a physical blow. He had never worked this fast before, yet there was no other choice. He accelerated his repairs, improvising where necessary. Human intuition, he realized, was sometimes more effective than precise calculations. The ship seemed to respond to his improvisations, adapting in ways even the Queen did not anticipate. By the time he finished, the ship's core glowed steadily, stable and ready. The Queen moved closer, her eyes wide with admiration. "You have done well, human," she said. "More than well, you may have saved us all." Jake leaned against a console, breathing hard. He had done it. He had fixed the alien Queen's ship. He had faced the unknown, dared the impossible, and survived. And now, as he looked at her, he realized this was only the beginning. The Queen studied him for a long moment, then extended a hand, not in attack, not in threat, but as an acknowledgement. "Come with me," she said in his mind. "We have much to discuss, and time is short." Jake hesitated. He was tired, unprepared, and not entirely sure he belonged in this galaxy of alien politics, war, and power. But something in him stirred. A sense of adventure, the thrill of the unknown, and the rare chance to prove that a human could matter in a universe that often ignored them. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward and accepted the hand. And as the ship hummed around him, alive and radiant, he knew his life had changed forever. Humans might be underestimated, but he intended to show that ingenuity, courage, and determination were not qualities to dismiss lightly. The Queen led him deeper into the ship. Ahead lay mysteries, dangers, and discoveries beyond imagination. Jake did not know what awaited him, but one thing was certain: he was ready. And somewhere deep inside he could feel it, the quiet, thrilling pulse of destiny. Jake followed the Queen through the glowing corridors of the alien ship. The walls pulsed softly, as if alive, and the floor seemed to hum beneath his feet. Every turn revealed more of the ship's strange design, curving and twisting in ways that made him feel like he was walking inside a living organism. Despite the alien surroundings, Jake felt a growing confidence. He had faced the unknown and survived. Now he needed to prove that human skill could do more than just repair. He needed to help this Queen survive. The Queen stopped in front of a large observation window. Beyond the glass, the void of space stretched endlessly, dotted with stars and the faint silhouettes of ships. Jake noticed them immediately. Smaller craft, sleek and dark, were closing in, moving with precision and speed. His heart pounded. This wasn't just a repair job anymore. The Queen's fleet was being hunted. "They are faster than anything I've seen," Jake said, his voice low. "We can't outrun them forever." The Queen's eyes narrowed, and for a moment Jake saw a flicker of concern. "Humans think only of speed and weapons," she said in his mind. "You see possibilities differently. That is why I allowed you to touch my ship." Jake hesitated. "Possibilities differently?" "Yes," she replied. Show me what your kind can do. Jake swallowed. This was more than a compliment. It was a challenge. He stepped closer to the control panels, studying the glowing symbols and complex interfaces. He didn't understand all of it, not yet, but he had learned enough in the past hours to start making small adjustments. What if I try something unconventional? He asked cautiously. It might help us evade them. The Queen tilted her head, curiosity shining in her iridescent eyes. Do it, but failure is not an option. Jake took a deep breath and began. He rerouted energy flows from defensive systems to propulsion, adjusted thrusters in ways the aliens never designed, and calibrated sensors to anticipate enemy movements. He worked quickly, instinct guiding him more than the manuals or displays. Every human trick he had ever learned in his cramped spaceport workshop suddenly mattered. As he finished, the Queen watched silently. The ship's lights flickered, then steadied. The vessel seemed to respond to his work, almost as if it recognized his touch. Jake couldn't help but feel a thrill. He had done it. In his small way, he had made this impossible machine work in a way that could save them. Suddenly, alarms blared. The enemy ships were closer than he thought, their weapons charging. Jake's pulse raced. He glanced at the Queen. Her expression was unreadable, but he sensed tension beneath the calm exterior. "Take control," she said in his mind. "I will guide you, but you must act." Jake gripped the controls. His fingers moved quickly over the panels, rerouting energy to shields and weapons. He fired a small burst of energy, enough to create a sudden blinding pulse that confused the enemy sensors. The enemy ships swerved, giving them precious seconds to maneuver. Jake grinned. His human improvisation had worked. The Queen's voice echoed in his mind again, softer this time. "Clever. I did not anticipate that. You are remarkable human." Jake felt a surge of pride, but there was no time to celebrate. The enemy ships regrouped, their formation tightening. They were relentless, and he knew it would take more than a single trick to escape. He scanned the space around them, looking for any advantage. Then he saw it, a nearby asteroid field. If they could navigate it, the enemy ships would have trouble following. It was risky. Even the Queen's advanced navigation systems might struggle with such maneuvers, but humans thrived on risk. Jake's eyes gleamed with determination. "I think I can get us through that field," he said. "It's dangerous, but we can do it." The Queen's eyes widened slightly. "Do it," she urged. Jake guided the ship toward the asteroid field. He adjusted thrusters, tilted the ship, and used gravity pulls from the larger rocks to accelerate in ways the enemy would never anticipate. Small explosions and collisions rocked the hull, but the ship's adaptive systems held. Jake's heart pounded as he watched the enemy ship struggle to keep up, colliding with asteroids and being forced to divert. For the first time, Jake felt the thrill of victory. Humans were underestimated, yes, but ingenuity and quick thinking could turn the odds. Every maneuver, every calculated risk, showcased the kind of resourcefulness that humans had mastered over centuries of survival. The Queen observed silently, then finally spoke in his mind, her tone filled with admiration. "You have exceeded my expectations, Jake. Your kind may be small, but your mind is formidable." Jake couldn't help but smile. The thought that humans could impress an alien queen, a being from a civilization far older and more advanced than his own, filled him with pride. He had started this job as a mechanic, but now he was more than that. He was a savior, at least for this ship and its queen. But the danger was not over. As they cleared the asteroid field, a new threat appeared. A massive capital ship, the size of a small moon, emerged from the darkness. Its weapons glowed ominously, and Jake realized with a sinking feeling that their escape had only drawn more attention. "This one is huge," he said. "I don't think we can outfight it." The Queen's eyes glimmered with a mixture of fear and resolve. "Perhaps not with brute force," she said, "but perhaps with your human unpredictability." Jake nodded. He understood. Aliens relied on precision, strategy, and rules. Humans relied on creativity, improvisation, and intuition. That could be the advantage they needed. He scanned the ship for weaknesses, looking for anything that could give them an edge. Then he noticed a small but critical detail, an energy node exposed in the enemy ship's underbelly. If he could target it, the massive vessel could be disabled long enough for them to escape. "It's a long shot," he said, "but I think I can do it." The Queen's expression softened slightly. "Then do it, human." Jake took control of the ship's targeting systems, adjusting for speed, gravity, and distance. He fired a precise energy burst. and the node glowed violently before shutting down, causing a chain reaction that disabled part of the enemy's engines. The massive ship slowed, wobbling in space, giving them the opening they needed. Jake let out a long breath. He had done it. Against impossible odds, using nothing but human skill and intuition, he had turned the tables. The Queen watched him silently, her admiration clear. "Humans are extraordinary," she said softly in his mind. "I underestimated your kind." Jake smiled, though he didn't let his guard down. They were safe for now, but the galaxy was full of threats, and the Queen's enemies would not give up so easily. He had proven himself once, but the real test was still ahead. As the ship sailed through the void, Jake realized that his life had changed forever. He had started the day as a simple mechanic, barely scraping by in a human spaceport. Now he was trusted by an alien queen, responsible for the survival of her fleet. It was overwhelming, exciting, and terrifying all at once. For the first time, Jake felt a true sense of purpose. He had been underestimated, but he had risen to the challenge. Humans might be small, but ingenuity, courage, and determination could make them unstoppable. The Queen guided the ship to a hidden safe zone, a cluster of neutral stations where they could repair the rest of the fleet. Jake worked tirelessly, helping to integrate human fixes with alien systems. Every adjustment, every calculation, every risk taken reminded him that humans had something the galaxy often overlooked: creativity. The alien queen watched, silently acknowledging the brilliance of human thought. She had faced countless civilizations, but none had challenged her expectations like Jake. Humans were unpredictable, daring, and clever. They had potential that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. By the time they reached the safe zone, the fleet was ready for the next stage of their journey. The Queen turned to Jake, her eyes reflecting gratitude and respect. "You have done more than repair a ship. You have changed the course of events today, human." Jake shook his head, feeling both pride and exhaustion. "I just did what I could," he said. "That's what humans do." The Queen's smile, small and almost imperceptible, held more meaning than words. She understood now that humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and fighters in ways that even advanced alien civilizations could not predict. As Jake stepped back, watching the fleet prepare to move, he realized that his life had irrevocably changed. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a part of something bigger, something that could define the future of humanity in the stars. Jake stood on the bridge of the Queen's ship, staring out at the vast expanse of space. The fleet moved silently behind him, smaller vessels darting in perfect formation, while larger ships glimmered with alien technology that still made Jake's head spin. He had learned to understand some of the systems, to anticipate how the ship reacted, but nothing had prepared him for what came next. The Queen approached silently, her presence calm but commanding. "Jake," she said in his mind, as always, her voice echoing directly in his thoughts. "You have done well so far, but the path ahead is dangerous. Our enemies have not forgotten us, and this sector is full of ambushes." Jake nodded. "I'm ready," he replied, though his stomach tightened. He had learned in the past hours that space was not just empty. Every shadow could hide a trap, every signal could be a lie, and the enemy fleet they had barely escaped would not rest until they destroyed her. The Queen's eyes glimmered with intensity. "You are not like other humans, Jake. You think differently, act quickly, and take risks others would never dare. That is why I rely on you." Jake swallowed. It was a heavy responsibility. He was no longer just a mechanic. He had become a strategist, a pilot, and the Queen's unexpected secret weapon. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. The calm silence of space shattered as a new threat appeared on the sensors. A fleet of enemy ships, larger and more numerous than before, emerged from the shadow of a gas giant. Their weapons glowed red, and their formation was precise, almost robotic. Jake's mind raced. "They've learned from our last encounter," he muttered. "They know our moves now." The Queen studied the fleet, her gaze sharp. "Yes, they are more cautious, but they lack imagination. That is your advantage, human. Use it." Jake took a deep breath. He had to think fast. The enemy ships were closing in, but he remembered the lessons from the asteroid field. Predictability was death. Creativity was survival. He adjusted the ship's thrusters, rerouted power from non-essential systems to engines, and prepared to take a risk that even the Queen had not expected. "What are you doing?" she asked, her tone both curious and cautious. "I'm going to use the gravitational pull of that gas giant," Jake said, pointing to the massive planet nearby. It's risky, but we can swing around it and gain speed the enemy won't anticipate. The Queen's eyes widened. You would risk the ship. Jake met her gaze. Not risk. Calculated risk, I can do it. The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Do it, human. Jake guided the ship toward the gas giant, feeling the pull of its gravity intensify. He adjusted thrusters with precision, using every trick he had learned from years of human ingenuity and instinct. The ship responded beautifully, bending around the planet in a way that seemed almost impossible. The enemy ships tried to follow but were thrown off by the unexpected maneuver. Some collided with smaller asteroids hidden in the planet's orbit. Others were forced to slow down, giving the fleet precious seconds. Jake grinned. Human creativity once again proved invaluable. The Queen watched silently, her admiration growing. You are extraordinary, she admitted, but there was no time to celebrate. The enemy fleet regrouped, this time sending a massive capital ship to flank them. Jake's mind raced. He scanned the ship systems and the alien technology around him. There was a small energy conduit exposed on the capital ship's underside, a chance to cripple it if targeted correctly. I think I can hit that conduit, Jake said, his voice steady. It could disable their engines long enough for us to escape. The Queen's expression softened slightly. Then do it, human. Jake took control, aiming carefully. He fired a precise energy pulse, guided by both human intuition and the limited alien targeting system he understood. The pulse struck the conduit perfectly. Sparks and energy surges erupted from the capital ship, and its engines failed. The massive vessel lurched, slowing dramatically, while the rest of the enemy fleet faltered, unsure how to proceed. Jake felt a thrill of triumph. One more human solution had turned the tide once again. The Queen's eyes reflected a mix of admiration and disbelief. Your mind, it is unlike anything I have seen. Humans are clever, dangerous, unpredictable. As the fleet moved to safety, the Queen turned to Jake. You have saved more than just this ship. You have preserved the lives of countless beings in my fleet. I owe you my gratitude. Jake shook his head. I'm just doing what humans do. We find a way even when it seems impossible. Her smile, small and radiant, spoke more than words ever could. You are right. Perhaps humans will be the key to changing the galaxy. But the danger was not over. As they reached the edge of the safe zone, another threat emerged. A stealth fleet, almost invisible, had positioned itself between them and the station. They had been anticipating Jake's moves, adapting to human unpredictability faster than he had expected. Jake's heart pounded. This was the ultimate test. He had to think faster, act quicker, and use every bit of human ingenuity to survive. Listen, he said to the Queen, I have an idea, but it's going to take every bit of your trust. The Queen studied him, her gaze piercing. You have earned my trust. Speak, human. Jake explained his plan. He would use the fleet's combined energy, rerouted through the ship's conduits, to create a temporary cloaking field. It was risky, as the technology had never been combined this way, and it might overload the systems. But if it worked, they could pass through the enemy fleet unseen. The Queen hesitated. It is dangerous. You could destroy us all. Jake nodded. Yes, but it's the only way. We survive if we act now. She studied him for a long moment, then finally gave a small nod. Do it, human. Show me again why your kind is remarkable. Jake worked quickly, rerouting power, adjusting the alien conduits, and connecting systems in ways even the Queen had not considered. The ship hummed, energy flowing in patterns it had never seen. Sparks flew, alarms blared briefly, and Jake's hands moved with precision and confidence. Then, just as the stealth fleet began to detect them, the ship shimmered and vanished from sensors. They were cloaked, invisible to the enemy, and the fleet moved through the blockade undetected. Jake exhaled, exhausted but triumphant. The Queen's eyes shone with admiration. You have done it. Again, humans, you are truly unpredictable, and that is your greatest strength. Jake smiled, though he remained vigilant. They were safe for now, but the galaxy was full of enemies, and his ingenuity would be tested again. As the fleet reached the neutral station, repairs and resupplies began immediately. Jake worked tirelessly, integrating human fixes with alien systems. Every adjustment he made improved efficiency, making the fleet faster, stronger, and more resilient. The Queen observed silently, her admiration growing with every move. She had faced countless civilizations, all predictable, all constrained by their rules. But humans Humans broke rules, adapted, and improvised in ways no one could foresee. Jake felt a quiet pride. He had started as a simple mechanic, barely scraping by in a human spaceport. Now he was part of a larger story, one that could change the course of events in the galaxy. His skills, courage, and creativity had proven invaluable. The Queen approached him once more. "Jake, you have shown me that humans are more than we ever imagined. Your ingenuity may be the key to survival in this galaxy." Jake shook his head, humbled. "I just do what comes naturally. Humans survive, adapt, and find a way, that's all." Her smile, soft and sincere, reflected the truth of his words. "And perhaps that is why humanity will one day leave its mark among the stars." Jake looked out at the fleet, the stars, and the endless possibilities ahead. He knew the journey was far from over. More enemies, more dangers, and more challenges awaited. But he also knew that human ingenuity, courage, and determination would guide them through. Jake stared at the bridge's main viewport, watching the enemy armada stretch across the stars. It was larger than anything he had ever seen, hundreds of sleek ships moving with lethal precision. Every instinct in his body screamed that they were outnumbered and outgunned. But human instinct was not just about fear, it was about adaptation, improvisation, and daring. The Queen approached silently, her presence calm but radiating authority. "Jake," she said in his mind, "they have anticipated most of our strategies. You have kept us alive through ingenuity, but now the battle will test every skill you have. Are you ready?" Jake nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I have to be. If we fail, your fleet and many lives are lost. But I have an idea, one that they won't expect." The Queen tilted her head, curiosity and caution mixing in her gaze. "Explain." Jake moved to the control panel and activated a detailed tactical view of the fleet. "They rely on formation, predictability, and strength. If we continue conventional maneuvers, we'll be trapped. But humans don't follow predictable patterns. We improvise. I can create a system that anticipates their movements and uses their own tactics against them." The Queen's eyes widened slightly. "You would gamble with their lives on human intuition." Jake met her gaze steadily. "It's a risk, but it's the only way we can win. I need to coordinate the fleet using a combination of your technology and my human improvisation." She considered him silently for a long moment, then nodded. "Do it, human. Show me the full power of your kind." Jake sprang into action, issuing commands to the fleet through a combination of alien interfaces and newly integrated human systems. He modified ship protocols, adjusted shield patterns, and rerouted energy flows in ways the aliens had never considered. It was complex, improvisational, and risky, but it relied on one principle humans had mastered over centuries: unpredictability. The enemy fleet advanced, confident in their superiority, unaware that the humans and their queen had devised a new approach. Jake guided the ships through sudden maneuvers, breaking formation, and using the gravitational pull of nearby stars to accelerate in ways no alien strategist would calculate. The enemy fired, but their weapons missed their marks. The human unpredictability made it impossible for them to anticipate every move. Smaller ships darted between larger ones, using coordinated bursts of speed, while Jake's adjustments to the energy shields absorbed or deflected attacks with minimal damage. "Humans are remarkable," the Queen admitted, her voice echoing in his mind. "Your thinking defies logic, yet it works." Jake felt a surge of determination. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and here, in the vastness of space, they had the chance to prove their worth. He adjusted energy flows again, sending bursts to key points in the fleet that strengthened shields and enhanced weapons targeting, all coordinated with movements no alien could predict. One of the larger enemy ships approached from the flank, its weapons bristling with energy. Jake spotted a weak point, a junction in its energy distribution. "I can take it out if I get close," he said. The Queen's expression was tense but approving. "Do it, human, I trust you." Jake guided a squadron of smaller ships into a daring attack run. They weaved around incoming fire, using sudden bursts of speed and evasive maneuvers, all orchestrated through Jake's new system. His human intuition guided every movement, predicting the enemy's actions before they could act. The energy junction on the capital ship was exposed for just a moment. Jake seized it. He fired a precise energy pulse that struck the junction perfectly. Sparks erupted, and the ship shuddered violently as its engines and weapon systems failed. The enemy fleet faltered, unable to respond quickly to the sudden loss. The Queen watched in awe. "You have done it again, human. Your kind, they are dangerous in ways I never imagined." Jake smiled, though he didn't relax. They were winning this battle, but the enemy still outnumbered them, and their capital ships were formidable. Every move from this point on would require not just ingenuity, but courage and quick thinking. He studied the fleet, searching for the next opportunity. "If we can coordinate a chain reaction," he said, "we can disable multiple ships at once. It's risky, but it might turn the tide completely." The Queen's eyes glimmered with both worry and excitement. "Risk is your human specialty. Proceed." Jake issued commands, rerouting energy from several ships to create synchronized attacks on vulnerable points of enemy vessels. The result was astonishing. Ships that were thought invincible faltered, their shields collapsing under precise, coordinated strikes. The enemy formation broke, confusion spreading rapidly as they tried to respond. Jake's heart pounded. This was more than tactics. This was human creativity applied at a galactic scale. Every adjustment, every improvisation, every decision showcased the power humans possessed, cunning, daring, and unpredictable. The enemy attempted to regroup, but Jake had anticipated this. He guided the fleet in a series of deceptive maneuvers, making it appear as if they were retreating. The enemy, sensing weakness, advanced with overconfidence. At the perfect moment, Jake signaled a sudden counterattack. Ships that had been hidden in the shadows of nearby asteroids and gas clouds emerged, striking the enemy from unexpected angles. The result was devastating. Enemy vessels faltered, collisions occurred, and chaos spread through their ranks. Jake watched with satisfaction as the once intimidating armada was forced to retreat, their precision destroyed by human unpredictability. The Queen's eyes shone with admiration and relief. "Your kind, they may be the galaxy's greatest weapon." Jake exhaled, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had won the battle, but he knew this was only one confrontation. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and adversaries, and humans had only begun to show their potential. As the fleet regrouped, the Queen approached him. "Jake, you have proven that humans are not to be underestimated. Your ingenuity has saved lives today and changed the course of events. I owe you more than words can express." Jake shook his head. "I'm just doing what humans do. We find a way, even when the odds are against us." Her smile, subtle yet profound, reflected her recognition of the truth. And perhaps that is why humanity will one day shape the galaxy itself. Jake turned back to the fleet, observing the ships as they moved with renewed confidence. He felt a deep sense of pride, not just in himself, but in humanity. They had been underestimated for too long, but now, even in the presence of an alien queen and a powerful fleet, their potential was clear. Repairs and adjustments continued on the Queen's ship, and Jake worked tirelessly, integrating human innovations with alien technology. Every improvement made the fleet faster, stronger, and more adaptable. The Queen observed silently, clearly impressed with the human capacity for rapid adaptation and problem-solving. "This is only the beginning," Jake thought to himself. "If humans can do this with just a few ships, imagine what they could accomplish with an entire civilization behind them." The Queen studied him, her expression softening. "You have shown me a truth that many of us have overlooked, that humans, small as they may seem, are capable of greatness beyond our imagining." Jake smiled faintly. He did not fully understand the Queen's thoughts, but he understood enough. Human creativity, courage, and determination had not only saved the fleet, but had also earned the respect of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And as he watched the stars streak past, Jake knew that the true adventure was just beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of threats and opportunities, and humans were no longer mere bystanders. They were a force to be reckoned with, capable of defying expectations and changing the course of events in ways no alien had anticipated. The Queen's voice returned, soft and commanding. "Jake, your actions today have saved my fleet and proven that humans are exceptional, but the challenges ahead will be greater. Are you prepared?" Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the thrill of possibility. "I'm ready," he said. "Whatever comes next, humans will find a way." The Queen's eyes shone with respect and hope. "Then let us move forward, human. Together, we will show the galaxy that underestimating humanity is a mistake, no one can afford to make. As the fleet prepared to leave the safe zone, Jake felt a surge of determination. The battles ahead would be dangerous, but he knew that human ingenuity and courage could turn even the most impossible situations into victories. The Queen's trust had been earned, and now he carried not only the fate of her fleet but the promise of humanity itself. For the first time, Jake realized that humans were more than survivors. They were innovators, warriors, and architects of their own destiny. And in the vastness of space, among alien civilizations and ancient fleets, that potential could not be ignored. Jake stood on the bridge of the Queen's flagship, his hands steady on the controls, though his mind raced. The enemy fleet had been weakened but not destroyed. Many ships still pursued them, moving cautiously, aware now of human ingenuity. The stakes had never been higher. One wrong move could mean the end of the Queen's fleet and countless lives. The Queen appeared beside him, her iridescent form glowing softly in the dim light. "Jake," she said in his mind, "the final challenge is before us. This is the moment when humans will either rise to the occasion or falter. Are you prepared?" Jake exhaled slowly. "I'm ready. We've come this far and I won't let anyone down." He scanned the sensors, calculating possibilities, thinking faster than he ever had. Human intuition, experience, and creativity had brought them this far. Now it would be tested to its limit. The enemy capital ship, the largest remaining vessel, appeared on the horizon, its weapons glowing ominously. It was massive, nearly dwarfing the Queen's flagship. Jake's eyes narrowed. He knew a direct confrontation was impossible. They would be destroyed if they tried a conventional attack. They needed something unexpected, something that only a human could think of. "I have an idea," Jake said, gripping the controls. "It's risky, but if it works, it could end this fight for good." The Queen studied him carefully. "Explain, human." Jake outlined his plan. They would use the remaining fleet as decoys, creating false signatures that suggested weakness, while he would maneuver the flagship through a narrow gravity corridor near a binary star system. The gravitational forces, if calculated precisely, could amplify the ship's energy output, overloading the enemy's sensors and weapon systems. It was untested, dangerous, and required perfect timing. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. "A human solution based on instinct, speed, and calculated risk. It is bold," Jake nodded. "Bold, yes, but that's how humans survive. We adapt, improvise, and take risks others won't. Trust me." For a long moment, the Queen remained silent. Then she said, "Very well, human. Show me what your kind can do." Jake took a deep breath and initiated the plan. The fleet moved as he had directed, breaking formation in a seemingly chaotic way. Enemy ships, seeing what appeared to be vulnerability, advanced aggressively, falling into the trap. Meanwhile, Jake guided the flagship toward the binary star system. The gravitational pull of the two stars intensified, and Jake calculated every vector, every possible reaction. He rerouted energy through the ship's conduits, amplifying propulsion while carefully maintaining shield integrity. The ship responded brilliantly, moving faster and more precisely than the enemy could anticipate. As the flagship entered the heart of the gravitational corridor, energy surged through the enemy fleet's sensors. Their systems overloaded, unable to track the flagship's erratic and unpredictable maneuvers. Missiles and energy blasts veered off course, striking asteroids and even their own ships. Chaos spread like wildfire. The Queen observed silently, awe evident in her gaze. "Your ingenuity, it is unlike anything I have ever seen." Jake gritted his teeth, focusing entirely on the calculations in his mind. He guided the flagship in loops, spirals, and sudden drops, using every advantage the gravitational field provided. The enemy fleet's capital ship fired repeatedly, but every shot missed, thrown off by Jake's unpredictability. Then he saw the opening, a weak point in the enemy ship's energy matrix, exposed as it tried to recalibrate. "This is it," Jake muttered. "Time to finish it." He maneuvered the flagship into position, firing a precise pulse of energy aimed at the weak point. The pulse struck perfectly. The enemy ship shuddered violently, systems failing one by one. A massive explosion rippled through its hull, disabling weapons and engines, leaving the remaining enemy vessels confused and retreating. Jake let out a long breath. The battle was won. Human intuition, creativity, and daring had turned the tide against an enemy far stronger on paper. The Queen's fleet moved to regroup, shields intact, engines ready. The Queen appeared beside him, her gaze softening. "Jake, your kind is remarkable. You have done what no one else could. You have saved lives, fleets, and perhaps even changed the future of this galaxy." Jake shook his head, still catching his breath. "I just did what humans do. We find a way no matter the odds." Her smile was radiant, almost tender in its admiration. And perhaps that is why humanity will leave a mark on the stars that no one can ignore. Repairs began immediately. Jake worked alongside engineers from both human and alien crews, integrating his ideas into the fleet systems. Shields were strengthened, engines optimized, and weapons recalibrated with human ingenuity. Every adjustment reminded Jake that humans were capable of more than anyone had believed. During the work, Jake noticed a small alien child observing him from a nearby platform. The Queen had brought young members of her civilization along to witness the fleet's recovery. The child's eyes widened with wonder as Jake adjusted a control panel with precise and inventive movements. In that moment, Jake realized the legacy of his actions. Humans were not just surviving, they were teaching, inspiring, and leaving a mark on the galaxy. As the repairs finished, the Queen summoned Jake to the observation deck. The fleet floated silently below, a testament to survival and ingenuity. "Jake," she said, "you have done more than repair a ship or win a battle. You have proven the power of human creativity, courage, and adaptability. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Jake smiled faintly. "I don't need repayment, just let humans continue to prove themselves. That's reward enough." The Queen's eyes shone. "Then I will ensure that your kind is never underestimated again. Humanity will be respected, and perhaps feared throughout the galaxy." Jake looked out at the stars, feeling the weight and thrill of the moment. They had survived impossible odds. The fleet was safe, the enemy defeated, and humanity had shown its worth in ways no alien could ignore. He thought back to the day he had first touched the Queen's ship, a simple mechanic with nothing but skill and determination. Now he stood at the center of events that could shape the future of civilizations. Humans, small and underestimated, had proven that ingenuity, courage, and adaptability could turn the impossible into reality. The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "Jake, the galaxy will remember today, and humans will have a place among the stars unlike any before." Jake nodded, feeling pride and responsibility. The adventure was not over. There would always be more threats, more challenges, but he knew humans were ready. They were survivors, innovators, and fighters in ways that could not be predicted. As the fleet prepared to continue its journey, Jake stepped back from the controls, letting the Queen guide the ship. He watched the stars streak past, thinking of Earth, of humanity, and of the potential yet to be realized. He realized that humans were no longer observers in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. They were participants, capable of shaping events, overcoming threats, and earning respect through ingenuity, courage, and determination. And in that moment, Jake felt a quiet, thrilling certainty. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. The Queen's voice returned, soft and commanding. "Jake, the fleet is secure, and the immediate threat is gone. But the galaxy is vast, and the future holds both challenges and opportunities. Are you prepared to continue?" Jake smiled, looking out at the stars. "I've never been more ready," he said. "Whatever comes next, humanity will find a way." The Queen's smile reflected pride and hope. "Then let us move forward, human. Together, we will show the galaxy that underestimating humans is a mistake no one can afford to make." The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of unknown dangers and possibilities. But Jake knew one thing for certain. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed when no one expected them to. They had proven that ingenuity, courage, and determination were weapons as powerful as any fleet or technology. And as the Queen's flagship moved forward, carrying both humans and aliens alike toward the unknown, Jake felt the pulse of destiny beneath his hands. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. Now it would remember. For the first time, Jake truly understood the meaning of being human, not just surviving, but thriving, daring, and reshaping the universe through courage, ingenuity, and heart.